You're watching F5. We're at RedHat Summit 2025. I'm back again with Jonathan. We're going to have another chat about building AI because from what I understand, not only were you the father of the idea, but you actually did a bunch of the coding around this.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn about how, or where you started with that. Were you just looking at some Python libraries and you started to pull stuff in, or step me through like the initial code?
So I had a dream.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. That's too much. But no, realistically, so we have been working at CDW with AI frameworks for a hot minute.
Okay.
So I started by sitting down with our chief AI architect, a guy by the name of Nathan Cartwright, which I mentioned earlier. He had come up with he's been using a couple of tools that have been really valuable to him, and we're finding them to be largely what a lot of the industry is starting to standardize towards.
Okay.
And so a couple of the tools that came to play was the avatar is made by a company called bitHuman. bitHuman spending a lot of time making the facial movements really accurate, making it feel like as human as possible, while being entirely AI generated.
Yeah.
This is not based on a single person. This is entirely AI generated. And then on the back end, we're using a tool called LangChain and LangGraph specifically.
Gotcha.
And that's a framework for building agentic AI. Mm-hmm. And so it has a lot of tools in the toolkit that we're able to bring in and essentially simplify the process of building these complex tool AI solutions. And then on the back end, everyone's standardizing on OpenShift at this point from a container perspective.
Sure.
OpenShift AI is a fantastic implementation, a way to abstract abstract and share the expensive hardware resources, the GPUs or HPUs that people are using. And so when we add all those pieces together, that started to give us a framework by which we could build. My background's also app dev, so I spend a lot of time thinking about how application frameworks work, right? And so that back-end, front-end mentality with a REST API, WebSockets, those play a huge role as well or those kind of are pulled from standard industry best practices for how you build applications.
So you're using Graph or LangGraph to connect to your data sources?
Correct.
Okay. And how do you present the data sources to LangGraph?
So as functions, we create a function, a simple function that can go out and query cdw.com in a specific way, and then that function we pass that into a LangGraph API call, a LangGraph function. And that then builds out the tool, or the AI tool that then gets handed off to the LLM so that the LLM can use.
Okay, and you're using LangChain to call an LLM then, or are you calling out to Azure? Do you guys run a local LLM for it?
Yeah, so the LLM is hosted on vLLM, which is what Red Hat's standardizing on, right? That's going to be their new inference service product that they're building. Yeah. That's actually the core of it, but Red Hat's been working with vLLM for a long time, and the reason for that is that has an OpenAI compliant API, and that's incredibly valuable for us for those of us who are trying to build consistency into the AI stack. Yeah. That's becoming also a standard. Is the OpenAI API that interaction layer with the LLMs? That's becoming a real standard in the market as well.
So do you guys expose like a / response on the REST API?
So there's a few APIs here. So the one with vLLM, that's OpenAI compliant, so that's going to be like your /v1/chat /completions, something of that nature. On the REST API that we expose to our front end, right now it's a real simple JSON query that is an internal one. It's like a /requests or something like that. That one doesn't have to be necessarily OpenAI compliant right now. Although that's not a bad idea to start transitioning it to that, because the reality is if that becomes OpenAI compliant, then where it gets really interesting is you can actually on all the way on the front end, like on our front end implementations, we could actually use just about anything that accepts an OpenAI compatible URL, and we could connect that in with our internal IT solution. So bear with me, that's actually a really good idea. On the fly, hey, F5's helping me out here, check that out.
Contributing.
That's a good idea. So probably plan on that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that might be cool to see. I do notice that like more and more people saying, you know what, we're just going to go with the flow with OpenAI and what they're doing on there.
Yeah.
And I know for our tools, starting to build towards that as well, just kind of accepting that things kind of look like that. But also like the MCP component as well, like you can kind of have MCP take the burden of translating some of the APIs for you.
Well, and that was an interesting one. I was just watching that announcement this morning. I missed it yesterday. I was here at the booth all day. But as Red Hat is bringing that component, the MCP component into play, LangGraph has already done that, which is nice from my perspective. LangGraph has helped us a long ways in this regard, where it's already ready to connect in with an MTP server. It's already able to connect into the MTP server client. MCP. Sorry, my apologies. I'm still getting them.
I know.
Seriously, this morning, really, on my way down from breakfast, I was reading or watching a video on it. So, but yeah, MCP though, as a protocol, has been around for a minute. That's coming from Anthropic, and 75% of Hope's code is actually Anthropic. I worked with Claude to actually build this out.
Oh, nice.
And so I was able to iterate on code so quickly with Anthropic, with Claude specifically. It was impressive. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So really, that back end code, while it is stable and really good, and I've spent a lot of time grooming it, a lot of it's AI generated.
Yeah.
So.
And I know, so you guys are doing Graph. Are you doing any like RAG model, like doing embeddings into a RAG
for sure
database as well?
Yeah, so that's one of the tools that we've implemented. I was talking about those functions that we've created. Well, so one of the tools that we created is a connection to a vector store that we can upload your traditional like your RAG doc. We can embed RAG documents into that vector store, and then use that embedding as context for Hope. And so that is actually one of the data sources that Hope pulls from when we ask her questions.
Okay, yeah, very cool.
So we're uploading marketing documents, we're uploading no financials, no financials, but we're sticking to the marketing side. We're doing the marketing documents, we're doing PowerPoints, things that have valuable data that she can parse and then actually use for her responses. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And then as part of the models, did you try different models before you came up with one, or are you using different models altogether as well?
That's an insightful question. It was one that someone asked me just yesterday, is how we came up with the model.
Yeah.
And model selection is a tricky process because in a lot of ways, model selection is like interviewing a new employee. Different employees have different capabilities. Different people have different capabilities. They have different experiences in their background. They have different ways, different schools they went to, different ways that they've been trained to get to the point where you are at in the hiring process, right?
Yeah.
And so you're trying to pick the right fit for your specific company and your specific set of use cases. And so there's a tool online that most people know by now is huggingface.co. Hugging Face is kind of has become kind of that marketplace where you can go search for that new employee, your AI LLM, and you can go see the different pieces that they're the different things that they've been trained on, the different ways that they've been trained, because there's different, not just the different data that they have, but also the way that you train. All those things play a role in their effectiveness. And then finally, you can actually see on Hugging Face the specific, there's a whole lot of different testing that we do to those, very similar to school, right? The benchmarking, right? Where we can actually go in and we can see the benchmark and the score and how how the different LLMs compare. And so right now we're on Llama 3.2. Okay. We're going to be very quickly on Llama 4. Because it's such a solid tool. Yeah. There's other fantastic solutions out there though that are, again, based on the use case, based on where you're implementing, you're gonna, you'll want to spend a little bit of time figuring that out. And we can help with that. CDW's got some great AI resources that know what we're doing, know what we're talking about.
Proof is in the pudding. Yeah. I mean, part of that too might be cost to run different sizes of LLMs. How much do you actually need? Do you just need a small language model to just translate some stuff, write a query to whatever database or data that you're trying to get to?
Correct. Yeah, those all play a role. A lot, it's a little bit of all those things that we have to weigh in, and the reality is no one AI LLM is going to be perfect for every use case. The reality is defining your use case first and understanding what your end goal is, and then kind of backing into, all right, who are we going to hire? Really is a great way to ultimately pick an LLM.
Yeah. Very cool. Love seeing stuff being built like from the ground up. We don't have enough conversations about that, I think, and I think it's worthwhile, like going through that process of, I'm going to pick this because of this, and then I need to pick this because of this, because there's so many different routes that you can take on this stuff. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely, glad to share.
Thank you folks for checking this one out. Again, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, do all those things, and otherwise we'll see you on the next one. Bye folks.
Bye.